And we do know we've got quite a lot of listeners who are in many other countries across the world. We also know, of course, that an awful lot of expatriates listen to us right here in Cyprus. Well, we're going to find out now about the Expat Survey 2013. You're invited to have your say on several different topics like migration and lifestyle, travel and health, retail and finance. But Stuart Smith from the Expat Survey has all the details. He's on the line. Stuart, good evening.
Good evening, Rosie. How are you doing? It's lovely to talk to you from a sunny London, I'm pleased to say.
Well, yes, you're having a marvellous summer, I think, in the UK this year. Well, we've always got the sun here in Cyprus, or pretty well always, which I suppose is why we have so many expatriates living here. Now, tell me about the survey, because if it's 2013, I'm taking it that this has been done before.
No, actually, this is the very first time that a survey of this in-depth knowledge has been undertaken, Rosie. What we're doing is this is an independent piece of research which is being undertaken by ourselves to look at the behavioural patterns of the 220 million people that live globally around the world outside of their original country of origin.
So you're not just looking at, I mean, although you're British-based, I'm calling you in London, you're not just looking at British people living outside the UK?
We're not, no, Rosie. We're looking at the total global marketplace because, I mean, for example, there are about, and I know there's many British listeners listening to you right now, there's anywhere between 12 to 15 million Brits that live around the world, but there are also some very major other communities that live around the world. For example, there's anywhere between 7 to 10 million Chinese expats that live around the world, anywhere between 6 to 8 million Germans that live around the world, and there's anywhere between 7 to 9 million Americans that live around the world. So if you add up all of these different nationalities, there's about 220 million people that live outside of their original country around the world. So it's a huge amount of people that we're talking about, Rosie.
And when we say expat, what exactly do we mean? I know it means you're resident outside your country of origin, so to speak, but are you called an expat? Do you qualify if you're maybe working for 2 years abroad on a contract, for example? Or should you have sort of firmer ties and more long-standing roots, if you like?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, really, there are several people that fall into this category. These are the people that have moved abroad permanently and have set up home. For example, many of your listeners have moved abroad and have set up permanent home in Cyprus. There are also, for example, in countries, I mean, if we talk, for example, just about Brits, there are many what I call second and third generation Brits that live in places like Australia and Canada and New Zealand, who migrated there in the 40s and 50s when the first ships started taking people to as far-flung places as Australia. We're looking at people that may be abroad on long-term contracts, 2 to 3 years, and but we're not really counting into that category people who are maybe living overseas temporarily on a 3 or 4 month work visa, or maybe working overseas for say a summer period. So we're looking at people who fall into those three categories, Rosie.
Which is an awful lot of people. Let's go back to the survey because it's up online and the first part of it's gone live. What are you actually looking for? Let's start with the one that's already up there. That's migration and lifestyle, which you launched, I think, in the middle of July. What sort of things?
We've been live about 2 weeks now.
Yeah. What sort of things are you asking people there?
Okay. I mean, basically, what on the first survey is on migration and lifestyle. So we're looking at issues as where they moved from and where they've moved to, why they've moved to that country, and what they're experiencing as residents of that new destination, how they've settled into their community, how they live their lives, how they're spending their time, how they're consuming their media. So it's all to do with the issues of their migration and lifestyle, and of course, Rosie, that's the part one survey that's live now with 2 of us to come in the last quarter of the year.
Why separate them? Why not have them all up there so that if someone's taken the trouble to log on and they can just do the whole lot?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, you know, as I explained, this is probably one of the most comprehensive piece of research that has ever been undertaken in the world. The second phase that we're going to look at, Rosie, is we're going to look at the retail and finance angle, which is looking how they fund their life overseas, where, how they spend their disposable income, with what brands, how do they choose to do their banking, investments, and deal with all the future fiscal issues. And then the third part, we'll look at the general travel and health. So we'll be looking at, as expats, where do they tend to opt to travel to? How do they travel there? How do they maintain their well-being? How do they manage their health? So we're looking at such a broad spectrum that because it's a three-part piece of research, we're spreading this over a 7-month period, and so far the response has been absolutely fantastic. As I say, we've only been live 2 weeks now, and the response so far has been absolutely tremendous, and of course surveys filled in from literally all over the world.
What are you going to do with all the information?
Okay, let me just make one thing clear. We are not a government organisation. We're an independent research company. We are not in the business of collecting data, collecting names, phone numbers. We're not collecting data. What this research is aimed to do is there are thousands of companies that service the expatriate community worldwide. Is to get a better understanding, how those companies can provide, better services, improve their services, whether it be an airline or a rent-a-car firm or an international school or a private medical insurance company, or an insurance company or a banking organisation, is to basically provide information that's going to make sure that those companies servicing those 200 million people worldwide provide a better service, a more comprehensive service, and of course maintain that long-standing relationship that they've got, with those expatriates, either both internationally, regionally, or on a local basis.
All right. Now then, I went to the initial part of the survey, and it won't let me go to next unless I fill it in or fill out the first page. But that's very basic about where you originated from and where you moved to, or where you're currently living, and your age and things like that. What about things like email addresses? Further down the line, do you ask for stuff like that?
Yes, at the end of the survey, it's not obligatory. As I said, at the end of the research, we're not collecting data. This is a three-part piece of research, and what we've done is we've opted to provide a prize of up to £1,000, or the person or the people that fill in the survey can opt to donate that money to their favourite charity, which we think is for a very good cause. And looking at the amount of respondents we've had back so far, of everybody that visits our website, 8 out of every 10 people who are visiting the website are filling in the survey, and again, over 90% of the people are actually providing their name and their email address, because I think most people probably would like to donate the prize to their favourite charity, and that seems to be the feedback that we've got so far.
But you're not going to pass those emails on?
We are not going to do that, absolutely, 100%, absolutely not, and we've made that very clear on our website. This data is private, it's not for any third parties, and of course we're not making it obligatory for people to provide their name or email address. It's totally optional. If people want to fill out the survey but not provide their name and email address, they're very welcome to do so. So I do want to make that clear to your listeners.
Okay, can you just tell me some of the sort of responses that you've had in this first migration and lifestyle thing? Have you had any answers that have surprised you, or regardless of nationality or country of residence or country of origin, do expats have similar concerns?
It's a bit too early to say at the moment, because obviously this is being headed up by our research director, Keith, who's the former research director of BBC World and the Financial Times, and we're only 2 weeks into the research, but we're starting to see some patterns form already. I think a number of things which are abundantly clear is, of course, we've had globalization. There's a lot of volatile economies. The technology revolution is abundantly clear. If we look at the amount of technology available now, particularly multimedia, such as tablet, apps, and mobile phone technology, that's become abundantly clear how people are consuming their information. And, and of course, I think some of the feedback we're getting is that, living abroad is not always a stress-free lifestyle. And, and also sometimes that is quite challenging to a number of people. So I think I would love to come back on air probably in a couple of months' time once we've got the results of the first survey and report in more detail to your listeners. But so far, I think some of the things that concern people on their day-to-day basis, is coming out from the survey, Rosie.
And that's regardless of nationality, as I say.
Yes, I would say so generally. I mean we're seeing a similar type of feedback from different nationalities from around the world. I mean, clearly the European economy is struggling right now, and there's continual reported negative news about GDP growth across the euro. Obviously, some of the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which have reported large economic growth, and there are large migration numbers of expats moving to those countries. Some of those economies are starting to stutter now. The Chinese economy, where there are hundreds of thousands of expats migrated to, again, their economy is starting to stutter. So there are a number of factors that are influencing, some of the new countries and some of the new trends that we're seeing. So there's political, and there's financial, and there's economic, and of course, in some cases, people are actually forced to move away from their country due to not only an economic certainty, but also political uncertainty.
And what about, this is, as you said at the beginning, because it's information that companies that service all these different aspects of expatriate life will want to know. But what about, if you like, the more personal things? Are you looking at this in a way as well as to what people's concerns are, and whether or not the grass is always greener, and an awful lot of people end up going back to their country of origin because they didn't in the end find life as they had expected it, did they?
You're absolutely right, Rosie. If we look at the last 12 to 18 months, I'm sure your listeners in Cyprus will be very much aware of the crisis that you faced. There's been some extreme publicity about what's happened in Spain in terms of the land grab policy of the Spanish government, and tens of thousands of Brits having their houses blighted in Spain. In places like Australia, where they've had extreme heat conditions over the last 12 to 18 months. You've obviously had the sheer disaster which happened in Japan over 12 months ago, and how that impacted on particularly a lot of Brits who teachers and students in Japan. And of course, there's been disasters that have influenced the movement as well. So, you've had the earthquakes in New Zealand. New Zealand has been, a traditional place where people wish to go and live and reside in. But I've seen statistics that the amount of required visas to New Zealand over the last year has dropped by 75%. And if we look at all the surveys that have been conducted about the top 5 countries that people often vote that they wish they could go and live in, typically Norway and Canada and Australia and New Zealand come typically in those top 5 surveys. But with some of the things I've just mentioned, we're beginning to see a shift in where people are migrating to due to some of those reasons.
All right. Well, it'll be very interesting to see the outcome of all these different migration and lifestyle is the one you're doing at the moment, then retail and finance, and finally on the 5th of November. You're going to launch travel and health. It's all at the expatsurvey.com, and presumably only available online. Is it? What about, because your age groups in the actual survey go to over 75. I know there are lots of silver surfers, but there are also quite a lot of expats who possibly, particularly in rural areas, don't have access to broadband internet.
Okay, on that point, I can say that to all of your listeners that you can go online, fill out the survey. It will take you between 10 and 15 minutes to fill out the complete information. It's fully available online at any computer, also on any tablet and on any smartphone as well. And if there are any listeners that would like us to mail them a hard copy of the survey, we've been asked to do that on several occasions. And we're very happy to mail a hard copy of the survey to people as well. So if any of your listeners would like to have a hard copy of the survey mailed to them, traditional post, we are very happy to do that. And I'm sure.
And how would they get in touch to get their address to you?
Well, people can simply drop us an email or ask a friend or a member of the family to drop us an email, and we'll be more than happy to mail that survey out to you. So you know, we've initiated that as a result of some feedback from people as far away as Australia and New Zealand, and we've already started to implement that, and some of the surveys have been coming back. So
what's the email people need to contact you through?
Right. In terms of that, the email address that let me just how we can do that. I just need to find that.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can always, you've got my email, so you can always email me with the email address that you reckon people could get in touch through. If they've got a friend who's computer savvy and they're not, but they would like to fill in the form, then if you drop me a mail with the email they should address, then I will pass that on.
Yes, I will do, Rosie. That's very kind of you, and I will certainly do that after the show.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Good luck with the Expat survey, and I'm sure we'll talk again before the end of the year.
Thank you, Rosie, and thank you to all your listeners, and have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. That is Stuart Smith from the Expat Survey. It's all on the expatsurvey.com, and you can go there if you want to fill in all those details. It might eventually mean that companies dealing with expatriate services improve what they have to offer.